In this section, I'm going to show you how to create and run a test. So let's use the test drop-down and select New Test. This will open up a new screen for us, giving us a blank test workspace. The first thing we can see at the top left is the network neighborhood. And in the previous section, I showed you how to configure that network neighborhood. So, using the right-hand button, I'm going to browse for that network neighborhood I created and select it. So now I need to select a test component. If I use the Add New button, I can see the test components that are available for me to use. The application simulator is a layer 7 stateful test component, so we can emulate clients and servers. The Bit Blaster is a layer 2 test component, so generates stateless layer 2 traffic. The client simulation is similar to the application simulator in that it generates layer 7 stateful traffic, but in this case, client emulation only. We have a Recreate test component that generates traffic from an imported packet capture. The routing robot is our layer 3 stateless traffic generator. The security test component enables us to send live exploits and malware, and currently we have around 36,000 pieces of live exploits and malware, and you also have the ability to upload your own malware as well. The security NP uses the network processor power to be able to send malware, so we can send malware at very high rates to stress an anti-malware security device. Session Sender is our stateful layer 4 test component where we can test the capabilities of a device under test at layer 4. And lastly, the Stack Scrambler or fuzzer, where we're able to generate traffic with invalid IP packets to stress a device under test's IP stack. In this test, I'm just going to create an application simulator. So I'm going to select that. I have the option to use a template where I can select some predefined and pre-saved configuration. But I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to give the application simulator a name and click Create. And we can now see that I now have an application simulator enabled and ready to go. If I click on that test component, I can edit it. The first thing I want to show you is the component tags. So in my network neighborhood, I created tags and I gave them the tags of client and servers. And because I've defined the network neighborhood previously, they're available for me to use. So I'm going to delete the tags that are predefined, and I'm going to use the ones from my network neighborhood. So client tags I like to refer to as client functionality. So the client functionality I want to be using this tag, and the server functionality I want to use from this tag. So if we now take a look on the right hand side, we have the parameters to configure. As you can see, all the parameters have been populated with some sane values, but if I want to overwrite them, I can. So if I want to make the data rate unlimited, I can select it here. If I want to configure the number of concurrent applications or the number of applications per second, I can do so here. So let me say I want to configure a maximum of 1,000 applications per second. I can define that there. As we scroll down, you can see that there's various configuration. I'm going to leave these as the default, except for the most important one at the bottom, which is the application profile. So this is the mixture of applications that I want to be transmitting. There is a browse button here that I can use, and if I wanted to search for, let's say, Sandvine and use the first half 2013 Asia Pacific mobile mix of traffic, well, there it is for me. There's lots for me to choose from. I'm going to select one that's based on some core firewall traffic, and there it is. So at the moment I'm going to be sending 1,000 superflows per second of firewall core traffic. I have the option of defining a load profile. So if I select that, I want to create a stair-step load profile. So I select the middle one here. That now gives me the option to create or to define the various settings for a ramp-up period, a steady state, and a ramp-down period. And the ramp-up is going to be of a stair-step mode. So I can define the behavior for that ramp-up period. I'm going to select full open data and full close, and I'm going to select the duration, 30 seconds. The maximum connection rate that I want to achieve is 1,000 connections per second. I'm going to start off with 100 connections per second, and I'm going to increment by 100 every 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds, over a 30-second period, I'm going to be starting off at 100 connections per second and incrementing 100 connections per second until I reach 1,000 connections per second. And at that stage, I will be transiting from the ramp-up phase to the steady state phase, where I will remain for 60 seconds, opening and closing sessions, and then I enter the ramp down stage, which will last 15 seconds. So I'm going to return to the component settings. I'm going to return to the test workspace. And now I can save and run. I'm then prompted with this screen to remind me of the various profiles I've selected. I'm going to select Run. We now see the runtime screen. Along the top there is a progress bar represented as a percentage. Below that there's a number of tabs. Not all tabs are applicable to every test, but here we see the summary tab. On the right hand side we see the interface stats, bandwidth, frame rate and cumulative frames. The center section is the TCP stats in terms of the rate, connections, cumulative and timing. And the left hand third is the application transaction stats in terms of a rate, cumulative and concurrent. If we go to the Application tab, we now see displayed the various applications that are in the mix of traffic. We only display 7, so if there was a mixture of traffic that has more than 7 applications and you wanted to view one of those, you can select it here, and then you get to see how many are attempted, how many were successful for every sampling period. We can look at some interface stats. In this case, I'm only using 2 interfaces. You can see what's being transmitted in terms of uplink and downlink, let's say. You can see from the progress bar that the test is now ending, so we're now ramping down. And at the point where we reach 100%, we're presented with a splash screen that tells us whether the test criteria has passed or not. We can now close that, and that is our test run.